What's going on, Jets fans? It's your boy DT back with another video. Wanted to talk a little bit more about the Senior Bowl as it is quickly approaching. At this time next week, I will be watching practice down in Mobile, Alabama. But since we had Dom C, friend of the pod, on late last week to talk about the Senior Bowl primer, offense and defense, the videos will be linked at the end of this video. We have had some more talent infused into this all-star circuit that I'm very excited about. So we'll save the biggest name for the very end, but we did have two Miami Hurricane offensive linemen accept invites to the Senior Bowl. Markel Bell, their left tackle, as well as James Brockermeyer, their center. So one tackle, we don't really need to talk about tackle position from a Jets perspective because they seem pretty good there. But James Brockermeyer, their center, the Jets are in need of interior help, right? They don't know what they're going to do with John Simpson or AVT yet. They do need some kind of insurance policy for whoever they bring back at guard. Also, they need an insurance policy or maybe some potential competition for Josh Myers, because I feel like down the end of the stretch of last season, he slipped a little bit in his play. His snaps weren't always perfect. I understand he got the extension, the 2 years, $11 million extension, but that does not solidify him as the starter, in my opinion. So perhaps James Brockermeyer can come in, give you a little bit of center competition, perhaps some guard versatility. Now, Markel Bell, obviously, he plays alongside the offensive line opposite of Francis Mauigoa, Kiko Mauigoa's brother, the fifth-round linebacker for the Jets last year. But Mauigoa, as the right tackle, has always been viewed as a first-round player. Markel Bell, I feel like he's probably a day two prospect. I don't think he gets all the way up into round one, but he is very impressive himself, especially watching the national championship against Indiana. They had some really good reps from their tackles in Miami. Sticking with Miami, Keontae Scott, their defensive back. Now, he's their slot corner, super heady defensive player, very high IQ. He can diagnose. He plays both the run and the pass well. He had multiple pick sixes in the 2025 campaign for Miami. So Keontae Scott should be on the Jets' radar at some point, because I don't think necessarily the cornerback room is completely solidified here in New York. Obviously, we have Brennan Stevens, A.Z. Thomas, and Jarvis Brownlee are looking like the penciled-in starters as of today, January 22nd. But Keontae Scott could definitely be somebody who turns this secondary unit around, somebody who has a knack for taking the ball away, which is something the Jets did at a historically low rate last year. 4 total takeaways and 0 interceptions. So Keontae Scott could certainly help with that. Another player who can help on the defensive side of the ball in terms of turnovers, Indiana's defensive back, D'Angelo Pons. And I think Pons is a really interesting evaluation because he is super undersized, but he plays way like a bigger corner, if that makes sense, right? He's not necessarily going to help you in the run game. He's really only going to be helpful in the pass game, but he has super good ball skills. He can take the ball away pretty easy. Again, you don't want him coming in and filling a run fit, because we saw, especially in the national championship, he just got absolutely abused by some of Miami's offensive linemen in space. So putting him up against a run-heavy offense might not be the best thing for him, but I think this week in Mobile will help him show out. Again, he's an undersized corner. He's actually getting comps to Jets head coach Aaron Glenn from when he was a player in the league. Obviously, he was super undersized, super fast, good ball skills. Obviously, he contributed on special teams early on in his career, Aaron Glenn did. So perhaps D'Angelo Pons can make his way onto a roster and really help, probably from the nickel position more so than the boundary, just due to his size. But we've seen guys like DJ Reed as well, who can come in and play on the boundary at 5'9", 5'10". So D'Angelo Pons is certainly an interesting evaluation. I'm excited to see how he does in the one-on-one drills down in Mobile. Indiana also sent an offensive player, running back Keelan Black. He was one of the running backs by committee in Indiana. I believe Hemby is the other running back in that room. So Keelan Black had a handful of explosive runs in the college football playoffs. I don't necessarily think the Jets will be in the market for a running back, especially at the top end of the draft, right? The first, second, maybe even third round. But day 3, they certainly can take a look at some of these running backs. I don't know where Kalen Black is scheduled to be drafted right now, where his prediction lies. Is it round 3, 4, 5? I'm not sure. If the Jets wanted to take a swing on a day 3 running back and Kalen Black is there, totally cool with it. I think that would be a really interesting add to the room. Now, the major name who was added, and many people, myself included, didn't think, even if he does accept the invite, he's only going to practice for one day and then he's going to be on the first flight back home so that he can get ready for, the NFL Combine, his pro day, obviously getting drafted, we assume in the top 10. But there are some people in the football world who do not believe this guy is a lock to be a top 10 pick. Some say, oh, maybe he's a mid first round, maybe even a late first round, even into an early round 2 prospect. I couldn't disagree more with those people that say late first, early second. I wouldn't even think at 16 that this player would be here, although there are some mocks floating around where he does make it to 16. But by gosh, if Ruben Bain Jr. is not a top 10 pick, I don't know, especially in this draft class, I don't know what we're looking at anymore as evaluators. Maybe everybody needs to hang it up as a scout. To me, Ruben Bain feels like such a surefire top 10 pick in this draft, especially when you consider there aren't a ton of quarterbacks who are projected to go high. After Fernando Mendoza, nobody knows who the next person will be, when that pick will happen. So in a thin quarterback class, where there's a lot of skepticism, maybe only 12, maybe even 10 first-round grades given out by ESPN. And, of course, there's not going to be 32 first-round grades in the draft class. That's just absurd, and that would be way, way more talent than there's ever been in a draft class to have 32 first-round grades. But the average is about 13 to 17 from the ESPN and NFL Network folks like Matt Miller, Jordan Reed, Field Yates, Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis, Bucky Brooks, all the guys that do mock drafts over those 2 major networks, they almost never have this few first-round picks. And they had 11 before Dante Moore goes back to school. So now you're looking at 10 first-round grades. Ruben Bain has to be a first-round grade, in my opinion, like a consensus first-round grade. His tenacity along the defensive line is special. I understand the length will be a concern, and perhaps for the Jets specifically, it will be a concern. Darren Muji in 2021, when he was with the Denver Broncos, talks about thresholds at certain positions: height, speed, length, arm size, everything that's included. And certain positions have certain thresholds where if they come in below that number, right? So for defensive ends, 34-inch arms, I feel like is pretty standard across the board for both offensive tackles and defensive ends. So if Ruben Bain comes in with 30.5-inch arms, 31-inch arms, do the Jets knock him down a little bit because of that specific threshold that they didn't like from him, even though the tape grades out way higher, disregarding the length of his arms? So there's a lot to be uncovered with Ruben Bain. I think it's important that he is going to the All-Star circuit because we don't have to wait until the combine to hear what his true measurables are. We will know as early as, I believe, next Monday what his measurables are. So everybody will know his arm length for months in advance before even drafting him. So Ruben Bain, to me, is a bona fide top 10 pick. He's one of the easiest players to watch on tape and say, yeah, I can see that translating to the NFL. His change of direction, his agility sometimes can slip, right? If he gets stalemated by an offensive tackle, it's harder for him to get off, change direction, maybe go up the arc and then curve back down the arc to go after the quarterback. But even in the national championship, we saw him get after Fernando Mendoza and wreak havoc to the point where it's a very easy, seamless fit to see him play on the Jets defensive line that is obviously devoid of a ton of talent. So you would have Bain with Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson on the outside, and then you still have Jawan Briggs, and you can add one more larger defensive end that fits your 5-man front if they are going to operate in more of a 3-4 system. So Ruben Bain, to me, I was excited as all hell when I saw he accepted the invite to Mobile. One-on-ones on Tuesday are going to be a ton of fun to watch from Bane specifically. And obviously, he has his teammate, Akeem Mesidor, who played opposite him on the defensive line. They will both be there in Mobile next week. So I anticipate Ruben Bane showing out, even if it is only for the Tuesday practice, and then he takes the rest of the week and meets with teams and has those meetings that they're allowed to have down in Mobile, all the player interviews, the medicals, the measurements, and things of that. So Ruben Bane, the biggest name added to the Senior Bowl. I am super excited to see him down there, as well as all of the guys who played in the national championship. History from years past going to the Senior Bowl, this will now be my 5th year going down. Normally, the national championship teams didn't play in this all-star event. It's too close to when their season ended. A lot of them needed to recover. They had, minor injuries coming out of their seasons, and rightfully so. But normally national championship players just didn't even take invites to these events. So the fact that they're taking invites, expected to participate in at least one of the practices, gives me a lot of hope that we're going to see some good things from Ruben Bane this upcoming week in Mobile. So just wanted to come on, talk about a little bit of the talent added, because when Dom and I talked last week, these guys weren't on the roster, and they certainly bolster up this All-Star Week roster, regardless of what team they're on. Maybe they do get on the American team, which has 2 Jets assistant coaches. Junior Taylor, the offensive assistant, is going to be coaching wide receivers, and Brian Natkin is going to be coaching the offensive line. He is the offensive line assistant for the Jets coaching staff right now. So there's a good chance Natkin is going up against guys like Ruben Bane and Akeem Mesidor, and his unit is going to have to protect the quarterback from those guys. So really intrigued by the talent that they added at the Senior Bowl. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is there anybody specifically you want to see at the Senior Bowl? I will try to get eyes on for everybody who gives me a specific player. Try not to flood me with too many players, because I'm only there for a short amount of time. So if you have maybe 1 or 2 guys you want me to take a look at, I certainly can do that and try to write down some notes for you guys. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. We're on the way to 1,500 subs. I certainly appreciate it. DT signing out saying, let's go Jets.